More than 30 people have been killed and over 100 more wounded after Russian rockets hit a train station in the city of Kramatorsk in the Donetsk region. The station was being used by civilians to escape to safer parts of the country. Officials say thousands of people were at the station at the time of the attack. The head of the regional administration posted these images on social media showing dead bodies outside the station. Officials say it's one of the deadliest strikes of the 6-week-old war. Rescue workers are on the scene. Now let's bring in DW correspondent Alexander von Namen, who is in Kiev at the moment. Alexander, first, could you tell us more about what you've heard about the Kramatorsk railway station attack?
Well, according to Ukrainian authorities, 35 people were killed and 100 wounded in a Russian missile attack on the train station in Kramatorsk. We have to stress that this train station is a very important evacuation hub for people fleeing the eastern part of the country, to be particular the Donetsk region. And for days now, thousands of them have been coming together there to get out, and the platforms of the train station were jammed with people, and we know that targeting civilians is of course prohibited by the laws of war. So the Ukrainian authorities have already condemned the Russian missile attacks. However, the Russian pro-Russian separatists in the region are saying that it was just a Ukrainian provocation. They say that they claim that without providing any proof for that. The European Union has already condemned the attack as well. And of course, it's devastating news when we take into account how many people were trying to get out of the region, to reach a train, to evacuate, because of course all of them are expecting a major Russian offensive there.
Now, as Russian forces withdraw to the east of the country, one assumes, that leads to some gruesome discoveries. President Zelensky said that atrocities committed in the now free Borodinka are greater than even in Bucha. You visited both places. What can you tell us about that?
Well, I have to say that when you arrive at the town of Borodyanka, you are just shocked by the scale of the destruction. There are high-rise houses there. They were almost completely destroyed by Russian airstrikes, and we still don't know how many bodies are buried under the rubble. So it was shocking to all members of our team to see the destruction there, but it was also heartbreaking to listen to what the residents of this once so popular commuter town had to say about their life under the Russian occupation. But judge for yourself. Here's our report. They have begun clearing the rubble, but any hope of finding survivors here is long gone. Borodyanka lay on the main route of the Russian offensive on Kiev. The scale of the destruction is so massive that even emergency workers seem shocked.
Now we see with our eyes what the Russians did to a peaceful town. There are no military bases here. They shot people dead, bombed high-rise blocks. I don't understand why.
When Russian planes dropped their bombs on the town in early March, these apartment buildings were demolished. Local authorities fear that up to 200 civilians were killed, their bodies still buried under the rubble. In one of the blocks we meet Alexander. He is back to salvage some items from his ruined apartment. When the Russian bombardment started, he managed to flee together with his family.
It's bitter, damn it. I'm still wearing the same clothes I had on when I left. At least I want to take some things with me.
This used to be his children's room.
I don't really know what to say. Don't have words left. They're bastards. Putin and his whole government.
A few blocks away, a distribution center for humanitarian aid. Among the residents lining up, Nina and her family. They lived through a lot during the Russian occupation of their hometown, including hunger and constant fear.
They were pointing their guns at my daughter and the kids. I went down on my knees and screamed, begging them not to rape my daughter. You know what can happen.
Many here told us similar stories. Lena says she's still shaking when she thinks about the weeks under Russian occupation.
We have to thank our soldiers. They are so brave. They are so brave that they freed our Borodyanka. Look what they did to my town.
Borodyanka was once beautiful and green, residents told us. Now it lies in ruins. The town is free, but it has paid a high price for its freedom.
That report by Alexandra von Namen, who's still with us in Kiev. Alexandra, the EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and the EU's top diplomat, Josep Borrell, have arrived in Kiev today to meet Zelensky. How significant is this amid ongoing Russian shelling?
Well, I think that this visit is meant to be a highly symbolic gesture, and it is meant to stress Europe's unwavering support for Ukraine, according to the European Commission President. And we also know that the EU Foreign Policy Chief has already announced that the European Union will be providing Ukraine with additional 7.5 million euros to help the country investigate the war crimes allegedly committed by the Russian soldiers here. However, we also have to say that we have seen prominent visitors here before, and this visit by the European Commission President is coming quite late, and the people I've been speaking with here in Kiev told me that they are getting increasingly frustrated and disappointed with the support that Ukraine is getting from the European Union.
Our correspondent Alexandra von Namen there reporting from Kiev. Thank you, Alexandra. NATO member states have vowed to send more military and humanitarian aid to Ukraine following their meeting in Brussels on Thursday. Kyiv's foreign minister made an impassioned plea for help to fight off an expected Russian assault in the east. He told leaders of the Western alliance that Ukraine urgently needs more weapons to head off any fresh attack.
The war in his homeland has been going on now for 42 days. So Ukraine's foreign minister got a warm welcome at NATO headquarters. But Dmytro Kuleba didn't make the trip to Brussels just to get sympathy.
My agenda is very simple. It has only 3 items on it. It's weapons, weapons, and weapons.
So far, individual member states of NATO have been delivering weapons to Ukraine, like these Stinger anti-aircraft missiles from Germany. However, 2 weeks ago, NATO members decided not to provide combat tanks to avoid being dragged into the war. Now, the images of war crimes have moved members to rethink that.
It was a clear message from the meeting today that allies should do more and are ready to do more to provide more equipment, and they realize and recognize the urgency.
The Czech Republic has provided Ukraine with tanks and armored personnel carriers. Ukraine is now pushing for other countries, like Germany, to follow suit. However, German tanks that had been taken out of service first have to be overhauled. Its foreign minister was non-committal.
We stand in solidarity on Ukraine's side, and that's why we're also looking together at everything that Ukraine would need in order to better protect itself in future.
After the meeting, Ukrainian Foreign Minister Kuleba seemed cautiously optimistic, but complained that everything's still taking too long.
And here are some other news in brief on the war in Ukraine. The United Nations General Assembly is suspending Russia from its Human Rights Council over the war in Ukraine. It's only the second time a member state has been suspended from the council. Moscow has condemned the decision as politically motivated and illegal. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said that Russia has sustained, quote, significant losses of troops in Ukraine, calling it a huge tragedy for Russia. The country's defense ministry claims between 1,000 and 2,000 Russian soldiers have been killed, but independent estimates put the number closer to 10,000. A Nobel Prize-winning Russian journalist has been attacked on a train with red paint in an apparent protest over his newspaper's critical coverage of the war. Dmitry Muratov is editor-in-chief of the liberal Novaya Gazeta. Last week, it said it was suspending operations in Russia after receiving official warnings.